And we are live. Welcome to this 39th ElaadNL Webtalk. It's the 7th one we do in the English language. My name is Erik van Kaathoven. I work as a communications manager at ElaadNL. ElaadNL is the Knowledge and Innovation Center on the smart and sustainable charging of electric vehicles. And we are an initiative of the joint Dutch grid operators. Today, our speaker is Christina Papadimitriou from the Eindhoven University of Technology. Welcome, Christina. Her presentation is about the role EVs can play in the local energy communities. And the presentation will be about 15 to 20 minutes. And after that, Christina will try to answer as many questions as you put in as is possible. So you can put your questions in the question box, which is part of this webinar tool. Good to mention that this broadcast is also recorded and will be available on YouTube later. And without further ado, let's start. And Christina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and thank you for having me here in the first place. So this is Christina Papadimitriou. I'm assistant professor with Eindhoven University of Technology, and the topic would be the electric cars and their role in the local energy communities. What I'm going to share with you today is some insights regarding this issue coming from a project called eNeuron project that is funded by European Commission. I would briefly mention what eNeuron is all about, and then we will dive into the topic. So eNeuron is an innovation action. This means that we are providing market-ready solutions regarding the optimal operation and planning of local integrated energy communities. We are having a 4 years duration, and we are in the middle of the implementation. The coordinator of this action is Enea from Italy, and technical coordinator of this project is TUE, and myself acting as a technical coordinator. We are 18 partners from around Europe, and we are having 4 different multi-energy pilot sites across Europe as well. So let's proceed with the main topic for today. Before, let's say, unfolding the role, let's go back and check what is the motivation for the transportation sector. What would be the background and what would be the main challenges ahead? So I'm pretty sure that you are already familiar with our need for reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, and that transportation sector is responsible globally for around 25% of the total emissions. And for this reason, EU pledged to reduce these emissions coming from the transportation sector by 55% by 2030. On top of that, please have in mind the new established, let's say, Repower EU plan, where it is explicitly mentioned that we are going to foster solutions in order to enhance energy savings and efficiencies in the transport sector. These are the main challenges that we need to address in order to tackle the main problem of the emissions. And the knowledgeable people, let's say, came up with a solution that is the transport electrification. This means that we are electrifying the final demand side of transportation. And the main question that I have for you today is that, is this our piece of cake solution? Is transport electrification a good approach to take? And this will resolve our problems? And if it's so, how about if all sectors think alike and would like to electrify themselves? that would be a problematic situation. And let's go and dive a bit in the electrification approach. So electrification is a valid, cost-effective pathway, as they say, for decarbonization of final energy consumption. And as I have already mentioned, this notion has also been fostered by other sectors. You can see, for example, in the schematic on the left, in the previous years, we had electricity demand and heat demand, let's say, uncoupled. But now the electrification of also heat demand is also a notion. In that case, the gas-fired boilers are going to be replaced by electric heat pumps. And this means that both electricity demand and heat demand are going to be covered by the electricity network. And also in the schematic in your right, you can see the intelligent transportation and how the transportation sector envision that the demand is covered by the electricity network as well. So this means that we may have no additional power network capacity in order to foster these demands, including the demand coming from the electric vehicles. And I'm pretty sure that you already know that we are having capacity shortage in the electricity grids for the grids of different energy countries, with the Netherlands included. So this can result to a real demanding situation to resolve. Also, because electric vehicles are within our, let's say, everyday lives, we are going to deal with the increase of the loads. This means congestion issues and other issues and problematic situations for the electric grid, and not to mention uncontrolled charging that would induce many situations unwanted on the operational side. And we need also to have in mind that if there is a contingency in the electricity carrier and the fatality happens, then we are not losing one sector, but all of the sectors at the same time. So it seems that electrification is not as an optimal approach as we would like to be in the first place. And this is where the energy vision of 2050 comes. And this vision came from the ETIPSnet. This is the European Technology Platform on Smart Grids from European Commission on the notion of the system of systems. So we are dealing with the integrated energy system approach that fosters the following characteristics. The first is that we are having all energy carriers integrated with each other, intertwined, and with good interaction, having though as a backbone, the electricity carrier. And at the same time, these energy systems will be completely digitized with a high level of automation in order that they are operated and managed in a holistic approach, an integrated approach. So to move forward by, let's say, combining these two concepts, we are getting the energy systems integration, having also the electrification on board. You can see in the schematic how an energy system integration would look like. You are having different carriers. You are having, let's say, water, electricity, heating, cooling, and also gas. And in between, you are having different technologies, conversion technologies that would facilitate this type of system. And they will foster the enabling condition for facilitating the integration and also increase flexibility of the system. Of course, within this flexibility, let's say, we can also foster the increase of the RES penetration. For example, if we're having an excess power coming from PV, and if we are not having enough capacity to host this in the electricity carrier, we can, let's say, store it in a gas form, for example, hydrogen, and have this excess power stored in a hydrogen tank that can then be used not only within the electricity carrier, but in other carriers based on this interplay and the integrated management. You can see in the purple circle the electric vehicle as conversion technology, where facilitates the interplay between the electricity and the hydrogen carrier. Having said that, and based on the previous figure, how about thinking of an integrated energy system but at local level? And this is where the concept of integrated local energy community stems from. And I'm sure that you are already been aware that there are a lot and many terms of different terms of what an energy community would be. But trust me, we definitely need another one, because the ElaadNL concept is not only referring to the set of energy users that foster this collegial approach in order to cover their energy needs. They're doing so by implementing a variety of conversion technologies within the multi-carrier energy systems. And this is really important because the ElaadNL concept is efficiently provide the integration of the energy carriers through these technologies, provide the possibility of the cross-sector integration, and that at the same time it can support the grid with ancillary services stemming from the flexibility acquired. Having said that, and having in mind the Ineuron approach, the role of the EVs will inherently come. Let me explain you the Ineuron concept in a nutshell. We're having, based on this figure, three different hierarchical levels of operation. Let's proceed with the prosumer level. This is for us the micro energy hub level, and the prosumer, let's say, has in his inventory different type of conversion technologies, including EVs. This is going to, let's say, offer him through the interplay a great deal of good qualities that then will use for the optimal of operation of his own assets, of his own building, I would say. But at the same time, this prosumer and all the prosumers of the ElaadNL can trade flexibility, energy, and other products within the local energy exchange market. And of course, apart from the consumers, the community assets can also take place. In that case, the exchange of energy and flexibility will facilitate the local energy community objectives. These are dictated by the higher hierarchical level, that is the local energy community management, and this will allow of course, for the prosumers to have some degrees of freedom, but at the same time, these objectives are conveyed to the market so that the prosumers are acting within a certain framework. This means that the two hierarchical levels and layers are not conflicting with each other, but they are complementing. And in case that the ElaadNL with the prosumers and the assets like electric vehicles cannot, let's say, for different reasons, meet the objectives of the local energy community, then the upper layer is responsible to find solutions by, interacting with other local energy communities, with the upper grid or other markets. Having said that, the electric vehicle's role is enabling in the Ineuron ElaadNL, but not only in the Ineuron ElaadNL, but also in the concept of the energy communities. As it has been already highlighted, EVs can be a basic enabler for this system of systems approach, because through this, the facilitation of interplay between electricity and hydrogen is fostered. At the same time, if we have efficient planning and operation strategies in place of a certain fleet, we can have a source of flexibility. And this is really important because through this flexibility and through these planning and operation strategies that could be smart charging, but also vehicle to X approaches, we can provide ancillary services to the upper grid. And this is really important in order to resolve issues like congestion. At the same time, it's really important this flexibility potential not to be only quantified, but also be used within the local market. And this is really important because at the end of the day, through EVs, we're promoting the higher hierarchy layer objectives that has not only economic or technical flavor, but also social aspects are included in these objectives. And this is really important for the social solidarity of such schemes. So, of course, don't get intimidated by these slides. I know that the lettering are small, but I wanted to put the full information here for you. So these are some of the barriers and limitations that we have confronted within the Neuron project for the implementation and the actual integration of the electric vehicles into the local energy communities. You can see that there are, of course, technical and economic limitations, but of course, regulatory in place limitations. Regarding the technical and economic limitations, the main issues are related to the scarcity of materials that are for the batteries and other equipment related to the car, and also lifetime of the battery pack, safety concerns, and at the same time, sometimes this scarcity and the limited lifetime can result to high prices of such cars. And also some car manufacturers at this time do not allow this V2G capabilities, and this is also a shortcoming. And what is really controversial at some time is that government have promoted policies for electric vehicles to be acquired by the consumers, but at the same time, the electrification of them is controversial because the electricity mix is not coming from green energy resources. So this is a limitation for exploiting the full capability of such solutions. And regarding the regulatory limitations, we are not having a universal approach across EU countries for EV policies. We are not having in place clear policies regarding the schemes of V to X, let's say, capabilities, and standardization and interoperability of charging points are really are significant barriers for expanding and escalating solutions. So, so far, I think we have established, and hopefully we all agree on that EVs are great assets for the energy communities and can be basic enablers, not only for the system of systems notion, but they can be also sources of flexibility that is much needed for giving support to the grid. Anyone would say that let's have ILEX full of EVs. Let's integrate them at a full high scale, and let's have all the good points taken so far. But of course, as you can appreciate, this is not the case. There are no piece of cake solutions for us engineers, and there are a lot of things to tackle before we are having these EVs to play the certain role that we envision for them. So there is really really significant for us to, before integrating major rates of EVs, to optimally plan in both structure and operation at a local level. And this goes by hand with the investment plan for the community, because affecting structure and the investment plan would change in case that we need reinforcement, for example, of the grid, and the operation would really impact the normal operation of the grid and the quality of supply and so on. So this is really important, not only to take on board the planning, but also the interplay between planning and operation, because the operational strategies that we envision for the EVs are going to affect the planning ahead and, of course, the investment plan of the whole energy community. And what is also really important is because the EVs planning so far is done in a centralized way for the whole energy community, this should be taken care of and treated with caution, because in order that the electric vehicles are supporting the flexibility in a decentralized way and participating in local markets, we need this decentralized local planning approach. So in order to sum up, and this is my last slide, we are having EVs as enablers playing a crucial role in the local energy community. Of course, under the concept not of the transportation electrification, but under the notion of system of systems. And in order to exploit all the benefits coming from such an asset in our local energy community, we need to carefully take on board planning and operational challenges. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Well, thank you, Christina. Very interesting presentation. I'm sure there will be lots of questions. To start, so how did you get involved in this subject? What is it? What makes it so interesting for you?
Thank you for asking this. I think that what was really important for us in the first place was to give solutions for the electrification coming from the different sectors, in order to design solutions that will make sense for the vision of 2050. One should foster not only one sector or one type of technology, but we need the view for all sectors and all technologies. And if we have this iBird view and this interplay between sectors, then we will facilitate the integration of technologies such as EVs, and we will exploit the best of their capabilities. So this is the motivation.
Yeah, and a little technical thing, but can you stop sharing your screens? So
yeah, I can do that.
If it's possible.
Wait.
Voice
I
live
can do.
putting the. Yep. Now your camera is off.
My camera is off, but my screen is still
on. Okay. Well, if it doesn't, yeah. Now it's just me.
Yes, perfect. Now
so
it's.
If you can put your camera back on, and we are together again. Yeah. So people, if you do have questions, please put them forward in the questions box. Another question is, what is the main advantage of an integrated local energy community approach? And can you also address this regarding EVs, electric vehicles?
This is really important because, as I said, it gives solutions to many critical aspects that we are confronting now. For example, the capacity. We are having capacity shortage, and we are not having a real solution apart from, of course, investing and reinforcing and enhancing the grid. But this is not, let's say, a sustainable solution for us. In that case, the sector integration is giving solutions to that. And by giving solutions to hosting capacity, the electric vehicles are facilitated to get integrated into the grid. And this is a really need, because electric vehicles in general is in our everyday lives. So we need to find a way to host as more EVs as we can, but we need to do that with a plan. Um, so this is really important. And also the sector coupling integration is giving us the flexibility that also we are missing at the time being. For example, what I have said about the rest penetration is also a type of flexibility for us that we are going to exploit in a later stage, in a later time of the day, and this is really important. And also electric vehicles are, yes, apart from having smart charging, if we are successful to the V2G services, let's say, and treat them both as load and storage, will give us flexibility as well. That is also really needed. So this is the main notion, system of systems. I'm saying it's the holy grail, or it's the easy solution, but at least it gives answers to critical questions that we are confronting now at the time.
Yes, thank you. So you already mentioned V2G, vehicle to grid, or vehicle to X. So what's the difference between just optimizing the charging with smart charging technology, using flexibility on the demand side, and also using the car as an energy storage with vehicle to grid? Is the latest V2G, is this necessary to make a successful integrated local energy community?
Yeah, this is a fair question. I mean, it's really important that we can take this step by step. Charging, optimal charging, smart charging is really important because it gives us this flexibility coming from the demand side, where we are treating electric vehicles as flexibility loads. But on the other hand, we definitely understand the capabilities of such an asset, and it would be a pity for us not to exploit it at the very best. In that case, we would definitely need to have them treated as storage for more flexibility and more planning, let's say, possibilities and operation possibilities. And designing an ILEC with EVs only having smart charging, let's say, capabilities, I'm not going to say that it's a no-go, because of course it's a matter of how we are designing and how we are having them treated within the energy community plan and so on. But what we're about is that if we do not have all the capabilities explored, it would be really hard for us to have more electric vehicles integrated. Yes, we will find a limitation of how many EVs can be hosted.
Yeah. So on the other hand, you say EVs are an important enablers in the presentation. So what would it mean to have a local integrated energy system without EVs? Is this even possible? And do you need, for example, batteries without wheels? So storage, if there are no batteries on wheels available?
Yeah. Yes, electric vehicles are definitely important, are basic enablers, because yes, these are assets that we inherently plan in an energy community. We cannot see ourselves without our cars, let's say. So we definitely need to find a way to foster solutions at their best. Of course, yes, we definitely need to think of them, as I said, both flexible storage and loads, and we definitely need more storage, not in a wheel. And I'm going to say not batteries, but storage, because this is also a really good aspect coming from the system of the systems notion, that we are not talking about batteries, but for storage. So we can have thermal storage, we can have water tanks, we can have batteries through the EVs, and so on. So this is really important for us, that we are having as much storage as we can in order to promote the flexibility and the security of supplies to the system. And of course, electric vehicles is in the center of this.
Mm-hmm. So if you use, for example, smart charging also to optimize, you can optimize locally, yeah, for example, from the DSO perspective, avoiding local congestion on the grid. But you can also do it on a national scale from the TSO perspective, supply and demand balance. Those are not always in line with each other. So from the local energy community, what should get priority in your view?
Yeah, in my opinion, according also to the policies of European Commission, we should focus on the bottom-up approach. This means that we are having local energy communities that are, first of all, self-sufficient and they are good citizens, right? And if they can provide flexibility or other services to other upper grid, they can do so. But the primary goal would be to use this planning and operation at the local level at the beginning. And this is also a notion that is fostered behind the lines of the Repower EU plan. Energy communities is the means to proceed with this energy transition and this ambitious plan of Europe. So my answer would be that local level and in more specific decentralized planning and operation for each energy hub, for each consumer, let's say, would be more than welcome.
Thank you. And so with regard to this, making this a success, are the main challenges, are those technical challenges or more organizational, also looking at the human factor, or both? What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So far, both technical and regulatory limitations have been found. They are equally important, but I would like to stress also how equally important to take on board is the social part. That in most cases, sometimes we technical people leave a bit behind. And from the experience we had so far, this is really crucial because you can see that pilots with technical successful solutions in place, and after successfully, let's say, surpassing or fostering certain regulations that would enable the solutions, are losing the persistence of the actual users. So they are engaged for a short period of time, but then the persistence is lost. So this is, let's say, an aspect that we should, as technical people, try to focus on, because we would like, in order to have this large scale in the next few years, have also the social aspects tackled in order to have the highest possible replicability and scalability of such solutions.
Okay, thank you. So this is a question from Max Geiteman. Are governmental incentives needed to facilitate this development for consumers?
Yes, definitely they are needed. Of course, this is not the only step that the governments should take. They are having a really great opportunity, governments and policy bodies, to take a step ahead, especially after the COVID situation, that the transportation sector was immobilized. You could see that the emissions were decreased, but now are continually increasing and getting rebound. So we definitely, and the governments, I mean, not we, the governments should take bold decisions and give incentives to promote the electric vehicle solutions. Of course, this is not the only, let's say, factor that would affect the electric vehicles integration, but it's surely a first step to take.
Okay, thank you. Another question is from Richard Overkamp. He says, first of all, he gives some examples of smart charging and where it can already be done right now, bottom up. So, for example, in warehouses or at university campus with PV on the building, above parking areas and ground-based. There's no question there, but he has another question which says smart charging will result in long connection time of the EV and thus more charging points needed. Who will finance this? That's an interesting question, I guess. If you want more connection from EVs to the grid, who will finance this? Is this a government thing a government should take on?
This is a good question, and this could be also seen as a legal aspect to take care. So it's not about regulations. There is the planning issue about where we are going to have more charging points, and it needs to be technically sound, let's say, and economical efficient. But on the other side, regulations on the connection points should be really established. And for the time being, we are lacking this kind of regulation framework. And this is really important because at the end of the day, we need solutions that are viable and sustainable. And this is why we definitely need also to explore all the capabilities of these assets, because at the end of the day, if we are successful in doing so, we will find also meaningful economic business cases. If we are having electric vehicles that are providing flexibility, giving services, and have all these benefits that are translating in economic terms, then legal aspects can be defined in the next.
Yeah. So a few more questions regarding also the time. One is the Netherlands has a relatively large amount of EVs and charging stations. So are we ahead of the crowd on this in this regard, local energy communities, or are there other parts of Europe which we have to look to get inspiration?
Yes, of course, yes. Electric vehicles, charging stations in the Netherlands. Okay, I don't have, let's say, a clear comparison to make at the time being, but it's really important not only to check the electric vehicle charging points. It's really important to check the potential, for example, the network capacity. So this is also something that the Netherlands is dealing with, this capacity shortage. And it's really important not only to have EVs, but also to have an energy mix that is green. So this is also another issue to consider. This is why I was saying it's not only a sector problem or only one technology focus on problem. If we are focusing just in quantitative analysis that we are having enough charging points or we are having enough electric vehicles, but we are not having the whole picture, then we can miss some issues that needs to be resolved. Of course, this is an interesting question, and the comparison with other countries is needed to find where we stand, let's say, at the European level.
Okay, thank you. Now, well, the final question for today is, so if you would have a crystal ball and you would be able to look into the future for 5 or 10 years from now, perhaps some more, what would the world look like with regard to this subject, so the integrated local energy communities? What's your guess?
Yes, I will share with you my wishful thinking, because last years, let's say, were really tremendous things going on in social, political. We had the COVID situation, so this makes the future unclear to us and what will happen to us. But in any case, my wishful thinking for the next 5 years would be that we are having in place a regulation regime that would foster the facilitation of integration of electric vehicles by exploring the full capabilities of these assets. And from the technical point of view, let's say, I would see ready market solutions coming from a Neuron project, but also from other projects that are taking this direction. That would facilitate the planning and the optimal operation of the assets within the ILEC community. And I think if we are successful with that within the next 5 years, we can take it step by step and try, let's say, to be successful for the vision of 2050. This would be a really good baseline to start with, at least.
Okay, thank you very much again for all the answers and also for your very interesting presentation, Christina. Thanks also all attendees which were there listening and watching us and putting the questions forward. Thank you very much. Our next web talk is in 2 weeks' time. It's in the 29th of September, and it is about building a flexible electricity system by using bidirectional charging electric cars. And it will be done by Nico Brinkel of the University of Utrecht. This web talk will be in Dutch, so I'm afraid our non-Dutch speaking audience will have to skip this one. But thank you all for watching, and this web talk will be available on YouTube. Thanks again, and hope to see you in 2 weeks' time on the 29th of September, same place, same time. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye.